The 9/11 Commission failed to fulfill the single task it was charged with, explaining how 9/11 happened and why. Instead, it lied. But the 9/11 Commission did achieve another goal.
Bush is winning, baby!
It protected the Bush administration, which went on to win a resounding re-election victory in the 2004 elections. It also provided a basis to radically transform our country and our way of life in the United States. The final 70 pages of the 9/11 report detail a long list of recommended reforms. Those so-called reforms radically expanded the power of the very same agencies that failed to protect the United States from the terror attacks.
With my signature, this law will give intelligence and law enforcement officials important new tools to fight a present danger.
Some of those changes, like the Patriot Act, passed before the Commission even issued its report.
We did not need new laws to allow wiretapping and surveillance because in all of the channels for the FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, we had every bit of information we needed to stop the terrorists.
Kristen Breitweiser is a lawyer. She's also a 9/11 widow who has spent decades pushing for accountability for what happened on 9/11.
The attacks 100% should have been prevented, could have been prevented. The U.S. government had everything it needed to stop the attacks.
And yet, rather than blame the agencies for their obvious failures, Congress gave the deep state power to access your business records, including your library and bookstore records, with minimal to no judicial oversight, as if you did something wrong. Congress permitted roving wiretaps of multiple phones without specifying a specific target. Congress authorized unconstitutional searches of homes and businesses without any notification at all. Congress created something called national security letters, which enabled the FBI to get personal records without any court's approval, and also gave the FBI power to issue gag orders so you couldn't tell anyone they were doing this.
We were already wiretapping and doing surveillance just fine before the Patriot Act. So again, the attacks could have been prevented 100%. We had all the information we needed to stop the attacks. We had the hijackers fully identified. We knew exactly where they were going, and we knew what they were up to. We knew that the Patriot Act, FISA warrants, they're not needed because we already had all the information we needed before 9/11 to stop the attacks.
In 2007, the National Security Agency created the PRISM program that conducted warrantless surveillance of your phone calls, your emails, and your internet activity. Much of this surveillance was conducted on American citizens who'd done nothing wrong. The CIA was, on net, maybe the biggest winner from 9/11.
In a perverse way, 9/11 is one of the best things that ever happened to the CIA for a number of reasons.
In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, CIA Director Tenet offered a novel approach to taking out the Taliban. Just use the CIA. And it worked. The CIA was the first U.S. agency to deploy to Afghanistan that year. A paramilitary team called Jawbreaker arrived in Afghanistan on September 26, 2001.
The first handful of teams that were sent to Afghanistan were sent there specifically to liaise with the Northern Alliance, to push the Taliban out of power, and to capture or kill every al-Qaeda fighter they could encounter. That extended then to Pakistan by the end of the year 2001.
The context here is important. After the end of the Cold War, it wasn't exactly clear what the CIA would do. They'd spent 40 years fighting the Soviets. What next?
In the mid-90s, President Bill Clinton, who was really no fan of the CIA, cut the CIA's budget. And that was the first time that the CIA had had a budget cut since the Carter administration in the late 1970s. On the day after 9/11, the CIA got a budget supplement of 10 figures. The amount is still classified, but I actually went up to the Counterterrorism Center chief, Kofor Black at the time. This was about 5-6 days after 9/11. And I said, Kofor, I have an idea for an operation that I want to put past you. And he put up his hands and he said, whatever it is, just do it. I have so much money, I can't possibly spend it all. So we all began flying business class all over the world. There are famous stories of CIA officers throwing sacks of money out of the side of helicopters, which gave rise to a joke at the agency that you can't buy an Afghan warlord, but you can certainly rent one. And that's what we were doing.
The CIA provided millions of dollars in direct cash payment to anti-Taliban groups, along with weapons and communications support. By November 2001, It was the CIA's Special Activities Division, not the US military, that had taken Kabul and the fortress called Mazar-e-Sharif. The CIA targeted bin Laden as early as December 2001, but as was so often the case during the tenure of George Tenet, the CIA failed to capture bin Laden. Tenet became CIA director in 1997, just as bin Laden was issuing his first fatwa against the United States. A leader with integrity would have resigned in shame after missing obvious warnings about a major attack. But Tenet had no shame. The additional resources and powers the CIA received did not lead to better outcomes. On March 20th, 2003, the US invaded Iraq. It did so based on false intelligence that came from, yes, the CIA run by George Tenet.
The United States knows that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
It was all lies. But in Washington, failure is seen as success and rewarded. By 2015, the CIA's public budget had risen to $15 billion, 500% higher than it was in the mid-1990s when they were fighting for post-Cold War relevance. And by the way, that's simply the public budget. Much of CIA's funding remains classified. The FBI was also rewarded for failing to protect America. By 2023, the FBI's budget was almost $11 billion. That's up from $3.3 billion the year of the 9/11 attacks. But none of it made America safer.
Before 9/11, Silicon Valley had the highest concentration of millionaires anywhere in America. But post 9/11, Washington, D.C. has the highest concentration of millionaires anywhere in America. And it's because Congress put so many billions upon billions of dollars in counterterrorism and in intelligence, including in literally thousands of federal contractors called Beltway bandits, that everybody got rich.
After the attacks, the FBI radically shifted agent resources to its top priorities. Those were counterterrorism and counterintelligence and cybercrime. Traditional crime fighting took a back seat. The FBI's drug program has sustained by far the largest reduction in FBI agent workforce, about 550 positions, or more than 80% of the non-supervisory field agents who are permanently reprogrammed. Not surprisingly, this reduction in drug fighting aligned with the deadliest drug epidemic in American history. More than 1 million Americans died.
I am not only not a conspiracy theorist, I'm about as far away from being a conspiracy theorist as a person can be. But I'm also a realist, and I made the first half of my career at the CIA as an analyst. And to come to an analytic judgment, you have to look at the evidence. Well, the evidence surrounding 9/11 says that there is a far greater story there than we have been led to believe.
Many of the people involved in this story should be in prison today, but of course they're not. That's the real story of 9/11. It's the story of winners and losers. On the day of the attacks, the losers were the 2,977 civilians who were murdered. It was the children who found out their parents weren't coming home. The New Yorkers who witnessed the smoke rising from their city. It was the firemen and cops who rushed into the towers to save those trapped inside and died. In the aftermath of the attack, the losers were the nearly 7,000 U.S. service members who were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the 52,000 who were wounded in action there. The losers are the American people, the rest of us, who lived in a country permanently transformed, stripped of its fundamental constitutional rights. We're $7 trillion poor with nothing to show for it. Abroad, the losers were even more numerous. Nearly 5 million people were killed in the post-9/11 wars, most of them civilian. Entire countries were destroyed. The world was destabilized. And then there were the winners. In the immediate aftermath of the attacks, President George W. Bush enjoyed the highest approval ratings in the history of modern politics. He leveraged that popularity to launch a decade of regime change wars. In 2002, he defied the odds in the midterm elections and expanded his party's majority in the Congress. In 2004, he became the first Republican presidential candidate in decades to win re-election with a majority of the popular vote. When Bush arrived in office in 2000, he was worth about $20 million. Today, some estimates say he's worth more than $50 million. Bush lives in Texas today. He spends most of his time painting and riding his bike. National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice, who spent most of 2001 ignoring the steady stream of very clear warnings about an imminent terror attack, got a promotion. In 2005, she became the Secretary of State. She received the overwhelming support from the United States Senate. Since then, Rice has enriched herself by serving on numerous corporate boards and is director of the Hoover Institution at Stanford University, where she is a professor. Disgraced CIA Director George Tenet, meanwhile, retired from the CIA in 2004, about a year after he provoked the invasion of Iraq. He got a sinecure as a professor at Georgetown University, not surprisingly. He authored multiple books, and, as so many in the CIA do, he joined the board of directors of multiple defense contractors. Tenet also spent more than a decade at an investment bank. After leaving the CIA, he was awarded a Presidential Medal of Freedom by George W. Bush. That's the nation's highest civilian honor. John Brennan, the Saudi station chief who helped the hijackers get their passports, blocked Alex Station from getting basic biographical details about Osama bin Laden, and personally worked to ensure that John Kiriakou ended up going to prison for telling the truth about what the CIA was doing, ended up running the CIA itself. He was appointed by Barack Obama to be director. While running the CIA, Brennan was caught hacking the computers of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Brennan lied about that and never faced consequences for that lie. After leaving the CIA, he played a central role in the Russiagate hoax that dominated Donald Trump's first term. He obtained a sinecure at the University of Texas and became an MSNBC contributor. Cofer Black, who ran the Counterterrorism Center, left the public sector for a successful career as a defense contractor. In 2017, maybe inevitably, he joined Hunter Biden on the board of Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company. Paul Wolfowitz, the Pentagon official who began calling for an invasion of Iraq just hours after the 9/11 attacks, ended up getting the war he wanted. He also got a promotion. In 2005, Paul Wolfowitz became the president of the World Bank. He resigned 2 years later during a corruption scandal. In 2016, Paul Wolfowitz endorsed Hillary Clinton. And finally, there's Philip Zelikow, the man behind the Dishonest Commission report. After finishing his time as executive director of the commission, Zelikow got what he always wanted: more power. His good friend, Condoleezza Rice, rewarded him for the work he did on the commission. Zelikow became counselor of the State Department, where he acted as Rice's deputy. He has since served on too many boards to mention. He's also served as an advisor to the Obama administration and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Zelikow is a professor at the University of Virginia, where he served as dean of the graduate school. His work on the commission masterfully avoided any form of accountability or blame for the attacks. It was, from beginning to end, a lie. In the end, Zelikow blamed the government's failures on a failure of imagination. Not surprisingly, imagination has never been indicted for it. It's been more than 20 years now, and we still don't know the simple truth about 9/11. But we can know. A new commission could find out. An honest commission, a nonpartisan commission, a commission dedicated to protecting the United States could find out. It could answer the questions that have hung in the air since that day. What role did John Brennan play in facilitating the attacks? Why did he seem to be working for the hijackers? What CIA official made the decision to attempt to recruit those hijackers? Why did the Bush administration ignore dozens of clear warning signs? Why did the Clinton administration repeatedly refuse to kill or capture Osama bin Laden? Who made the decision to ship the rubble from 9/11 off Manhattan and out of the country before an investigation could be done? Why did Tower 7 collapse even though it was hit by no airplane? What's in the NSA files that the commission never bothered to check? Which investors profited from the attacks? The government knows the name of the investor who profited from the attacks, who knew they were coming. Why haven't they told us? And in the end, who benefited most from 9/11? What foreign countries benefited from 9/11? What did foreign intel services know about the attacks before they happened? A commission could find these answers. That commission would have broad subpoena power, enough funding and personnel to get those answers. After more than 20 years, the American people have a right, an absolute right to those answers. They should be outraged by the lying, and they should demand to know what actually happened on September 11th.